The Invictus Games has suffered its greatest blow yet, and that is a decision by Australia to remove all funding from their team.
Didn't show the children's faces, but we somehow are trying to convey that the children are having the time of their lives.
Through Meghan's faces, she shows us her like giggly over them. It's like so weird.
In this case, we're not dealing with the smartest person in the world. We know that from all the things we've seen. Seriously, she's not. Yeah. She's nice and she's smart. And I mean, she can get along in the world by herself.
Invictus doesn't pay for anything, for squat. What is happening?
Prince Harry and his last remaining genuine charity project, the Invictus Games. But is it really a charity project at all?
Australia just made a quiet but brutal financial move that's now shaking the entire Invictus world, and the fallout is getting louder every day. Australia has officially stepped back and removed about $9 million per year in funding from the Invictus program, and this didn't come with drama or speeches. It came like a silent cut that hit harder than anyone expected. Invictus Games. This decision dropped just days after the recent high-profile visit involving Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, a tour that many believed was meant to strengthen ties and refresh global support. But instead, it seems to have triggered even more scrutiny behind the scenes. What makes this even more intense is the timing, because everything looked carefully staged to show influence, relevance, and public support. But instead, the financial door quietly started closing right after. No press conference, no big announcement, just a budget line erased like it was never there. And that silence is what makes it feel so heavy. Inside Australia, the Invictus organization is now reportedly pushing back.
Australia to remove all funding from their team. This is huge. This is massive. And this is a sign that the Australian government watched the games, enjoyed the games, and then decided, you know what? This is just not worth the money. And it really doesn't have anything to do with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's likability or those other things. The games are just not financially stable nor financially sustainable. The Australian government decided for 3 years, ending this year, to fund the Invictus Games at about their version of it, like kind of Australia's team and those sorts of things, at about $3 million a year. So they did that. But for the 2027-2028 fiscal budget, they're like, yeah, no, we're not giving any money to this anymore.
With leadership trying to convince officials to reconsider the decision, but government responses have already pointed to massive alternative spending priorities, especially veteran support systems worth billions, leaving little room for continued funding at that level. And the energy around this move is not isolated, because Australia is not the first country to step away from the structure surrounding the Invictus brand. Germany had already pulled support after previous games in Dusseldorf, and at the time, it barely made mainstream headlines. But now, people are looking back and connecting the dots with sharper focus than ever. Now the conversation is shifting hard, because the question being asked everywhere is simple but explosive. Where is all the money actually going inside this system? And that question is opening doors to some uncomfortable comparisons that are spreading fast across media discussions. One of the biggest financial examples being pointed at is the Vancouver edition of the Games, which reportedly reached around $63 million in total spending, a staggering figure for a sporting event centered on wounded veterans.
For many veterans, Invictus Australia is not just a recreational outlet, it is a lifeline. Michael Hartung, the CEO of Invictus Australia, says removing this funding removes access to proven pathways for recovery. With demand already outstripping our capacity, this decision risks pushing vulnerable veterans and their families further into isolation. If we are truly committed to veteran well-being, support for this work must continue so that we can keep delivering evidence-backed impact at scale. Statement from the Veterans Affairs Minister, Matt, says the government thanks Invictus Australia for their effective work supporting the veteran community. Since coming to government, we've made the biggest investment in DVA in 30 years, including some $18.1 billion worth of funding for medical services for veterans and their families, including mental health and well-being support. Australia continues to grapple with the findings of Royal Commission into Defence and Veteran ending their lives. This decision represents a serious step backwards in the nation's commitment to veterans' well-beings. We continue to lose 6 veterans a month to a sad state of ending their own lives. 52% of Australian veteran families have experienced mental health challenges in the past 12 months. Veterans who remain physically active have a 40% higher likelihood of overcoming mental health challenges. Invictus Australia's sport-based community-led approach can contribute to addressing 34 of the Royal Commission's 122 recommendations for a stronger early intervention, social connection, and holistic support system.
Out of that total, around $30 million reportedly came from Canadian government support alone, with additional millions coming from corporate sponsorships and donations. But even with that level of funding, critics are questioning how the money was distributed on the ground. Some reports circulating in financial discussions claim that veterans themselves, the very people the event is meant to celebrate, still had to cover portions of their own travel and accommodation costs, which has raised serious concerns about priorities and allocation. And then comes the number that has shocked many observers the most.
Her show at News Nation, she has been able to finally get these funding questions about the $63 million Invictus Games spend into the mainstream media, reporting this week. And of course, she's been very careful because we know how litigious Prince Harry can be, but this is really extraordinary stuff. So Paula reports, the most recent games held in Vancouver and Whistler in February 2025 brought together 543 wounded military veterans from 23 countries. The total cost 63.2 million Canadian, or approximately $118,352 per competitor.
Because out of that estimated $63 million budget, only around $200,000 is being described in reports as having reached veterans directly. And that gap is now driving intense debate and calls for transparency. That imbalance has fueled speculation and financial scrutiny, with some investigators and commentators suggesting that a full independent audit may be necessary to understand how expenses were categorized, routed, and approved inside the system, especially regarding high-end logistics. There are even circulating claims, still unverified, suggesting that expenses related to luxury travel, private flights, and premium accommodations for senior figures may have been processed through Invictus-related accounts, though none of this has been officially confirmed, and it remains under public discussion rather than proven fact. What intensifies the comparison even more is that similar programs, like the US Warrior Games, reportedly operate on a fraction of the budget, around $2 million.
For comparison, the US Warrior Games, a similar competition for wounded American service members, runs on roughly $2 million a year. Germany's Invictus-style competition costs about $200,000 and involves half as many participants. The public's taxes footed a portion of the bill. According to tax returns on file, the public picked up half the tab for Vancouver, with the Canadian federal government contributing $15 million through the Veterans Affairs Canada, and the province of British Columbia contributing another $15 million through its Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Sport.
Now, Boeing has, I believe, cut ties. I am doing that story for News Nation. It'll come out later today about how Boeing was the huge sponsor. The contract has ended and they are not re-signing. So Harry has to go to Birmingham this summer. He has to drum up some sort of business because at this point, A, it's just embarrassing. And B, yes, government funds are supposed to cover about half, but the other half are supposed to come from private companies and private individuals.
Yet still serve comparable veteran communities, which raises serious questions about efficiency and scaling. But beyond the numbers, there are human stories that are now being pulled into the spotlight, and one in particular is being widely discussed because it paints a very different picture of what happened behind the scenes at the event. During one of the competitions, a wheelchair basketball athlete, a wounded veteran participating in the games, reportedly fell from his chair and suffered a serious back injury during play, turning a moment of celebration into something far more painful and alarming. The concern being raised is not just the injury itself, but what happened afterward, because according to accounts being shared, the response was minimal, with claims of little immediate support or sustained attention given after the incident unfolded. That moment has become symbolic in online discussions, because critics argue that if the core purpose of Invictus Games is truly centered on veterans, then incidents like that should have triggered immediate, visible care and structured follow-up, not silence once the cameras moved away. At the same time, the organization is also seeing internal shifts, with reports of leadership changes, sponsor withdrawals, and structural instability starting to appear in public conversations, including mentions of resignations from board-level figures connected to future planning. Major corporate names like Land Rover and even Boeing are being discussed in relation to sponsorship pullbacks, adding more pressure to an already controversial narrative surrounding funding and sustainability. While all of this is unfolding, public attention has also been drawn to contrasting royal appearances elsewhere, particularly involving Catherine, Princess of Wales, whose recent appearance in Italy reportedly drew massive crowds and significant media attention, with hundreds of journalists applying for coverage access. That contrast is being widely discussed online, with one side showing increasing questions around Invictus funding and structure, while the other side highlights strong public engagement and organized media presence elsewhere in royal-related appearances. Meanwhile, attention turns back to the original Invictus events, especially the visibility of Meghan during key moments where public behavior and camera angles have become part of a growing online debate. Observers noted that during the opening procession of the Vancouver Games, Meghan Markle was seen walking ahead of the veterans, the very individuals the event is designed to center, which sparked commentary and criticism across social platforms. The discussion intensified further during a polo-related ceremony, where footage appeared to show her reaching toward a trophy before the formal presentation had fully concluded, while others were still holding or presenting the award. And at Bondi Beach, during a visit connected to survivors of a major incident, images captured during the visit were later used in promotional contexts tied to fashion and lifestyle content, with links circulating that connected clothing worn during the visit to shopping platforms, which triggered public debate about sensitivity and timing. These moments are now being re-examined together by audiences trying to understand whether the focus of the event stayed on veterans and survivors, or whether the media spotlight drifted toward branding and visibility instead, adding even more fuel to an already heated global conversation. A wave of memory, timing, and online chaos collided all at once, and suddenly, the story around Harry and Meghan's public image started spinning in a very different direction. People didn't forget, and that simple fact is now being described by many observers as the moment everything started to crack in terms of goodwill surrounding Prince Harry and Meghan Markle after their latest public appearances and online activity. While financial pressure and funding debates were quietly building behind the scenes in Canberra, something very different was unfolding online, where Meghan's social media posts were suddenly becoming the center of intense public scrutiny and viral discussion. On Instagram, Meghan shared what she described as a joint birthday celebration for Archie and Lilibet at Disneyland, presenting it as a warm, family-focused moment filled with joy, celebration, and togetherness. And at first glance, it looked exactly like that: simple, happy, and polished. But the internet didn't just scroll past it. People zoomed in, paused, and started analyzing every single detail with extreme attention. And that's when the tone of the conversation shifted fast and loudly. Viewers began pointing out what they believed were unusual similarities between the photos posted in different timeframes, with Meghan appearing in what looked like the same outfit she wore in a previous Disneyland visit, and Prince Harry also appearing in matching clothing that seemed visually identical to earlier images being circulated online. Even more details started getting pulled into the spotlight, including observations about Lilibet's outfit, which some users claimed looked identical to what she wore in earlier photos, along with similar posture, setting, and even visual background elements that matched previous Disneyland-style images. People online started breaking it down frame by frame, zooming into backgrounds, comparing shadows, and pointing out small details like barefoot positioning, furniture placement, and patio angles. And this level of scrutiny quickly turned the post into a full-blown debate thread across social platforms. Then came the claim that escalated everything, where commenters argued that children grow rapidly and clothing fitting in an identical way across different time periods would be unlikely. And that observation alone fueled a wave of speculation that spread far beyond the original post. This is where the conversation intensified, because users began questioning whether the images were from different moments or potentially recycled content. And that theory quickly took on a life of its own across comment sections and reaction videos. Adding to the confusion, observers also noticed that Harry appeared absent from some of the newer posted content, which immediately sparked more discussion about timing, location, and whether everyone involved was actually together at the moment the images were presented. Reports circulating online suggested that Prince Harry may have spent that particular weekend away in New York with the children, though these claims remain unverified and are based on online discussion rather than confirmed statements. If that timeline were accurate, it would mean that Meghan's Mother's Day posts may have been structured using older family footage or previously captured moments, presented in a way that appeared current, and that idea alone pushed the conversation into even more heated territory. At the same time, Meghan also released a separate Instagram video that became another major talking point, especially among viewers who closely follow her public content style and production choices. The video was set inside a sleek, bright, and highly polished white kitchen space, which many viewers immediately noticed did not resemble her commonly known Montecito home environment, where earlier photos reportedly show a darker, warmer-toned kitchen design. That difference in setting triggered immediate speculation that the location may have been a staged or rented production space designed specifically for filming rather than a casual home recording environment. In the video, Meghan is seen alone, with no visible presence of family members or close companions, and only a filming setup that appears to include professional assistants, which viewers interpreted as a carefully structured production rather than a spontaneous moment. She interacts with branded products, lifting jars labeled with her "A is for" line, examining them slowly and deliberately, almost theatrically, as if emphasizing presentation, branding, and emotional connection to the items in a highly stylized way. At one point, she leans against a pantry wall, closes her eyes, tilts her head back, and exhales slowly, a moment that quickly became widely discussed online, with commenters describing it in exaggerated terms and debating the intention behind the visual storytelling. That single moment turned into a viral clip, replayed repeatedly across platforms, with viewers interpreting it in multiple ways, from lifestyle branding expression to highly staged emotional presentation. And the reactions were sharply divided. Short, sharp moments in the video also drew attention, including a scene where a bookmark is used in an unusual way, which viewers pointed out almost instantly, turning even small gestures into talking points across online communities. Another clip showed Meghan fully styled, polished, and positioned in what appeared to be a relaxed reclining pose, which some viewers questioned as a candid moment despite the visible signs of production setup, lighting control, and camera framing. Amid all this media attention, fashion and luxury discussions also entered the conversation, especially after reports surfaced involving Dior, which publicly denied any formal approach involving Meghan, according to circulating industry commentary. At the same time, industry chatter intensified when the actress portraying Catherine, Princess of Wales in The Crown, reportedly became associated with a "they" campaign linked to Dior, which many observers claimed was a strategic move in the fashion world rather than a coincidence. Whether coincidence or calculated timing, the overlap between entertainment casting, luxury branding, and royal portrayal fueled even more discussion about image control, perception, and public narrative shaping across media platforms. But beyond the fashion headlines and viral clips, the most explosive claims this week came from publishing industry whispers that started circulating through media outlets and insider commentary. According to one publishing source cited in reports, Meghan has allegedly been recording voice notes late at night, sometimes around 1 o'clock in the morning, collecting structured reflections and personal documentation over an extended period of time. These reports suggest that she has been building a long-term archive of thoughts, notes, and reflections stretching back before the royal departure period, often referred to in public discussion as Megxit, though the content of these materials has not been independently verified. The most controversial claim attached to these reports is the suggestion that she has access to extensive personal documentation and has not signed restrictive agreements limiting her ability to speak publicly, though again, this remains part of ongoing speculation and commentary rather than confirmed fact. According to these same circulating claims, there is growing belief in publishing circles that she may eventually turn this material into a structured narrative project, whether that becomes a memoir, audio release, or documentary-style storytelling format. And as these rumors continue to spread, the conversation keeps circling back to one central tension: the gap between public image, private documentation, and how much of the unseen story will eventually be told when the time comes. A rapidly expanding global media storm is now forming around royal storytelling, publishing ambitions, and high-profile appearances. And this final stretch pushes the entire narrative into its most intense and debated phase yet. The vision being described in publishing and media circles is no longer just a traditional memoir release, but something far more aggressive in scale, reportedly structured as a full global multi-platform rollout involving international publishing rights, streaming adaptations, and layered media distribution strategies designed to dominate multiple industries at once. According to circulating reports, the project is being positioned as a direct challenger in commercial impact to earlier major royal releases tied to Prince Harry, especially his globally successful memoir Spare, which already reshaped public discussion around modern royal narratives. Industry chatter suggests that this expanded concept could include a coordinated media strategy involving televised interviews, streaming specials, and potentially another high-profile sit-down conversation format, similar in scale to previous landmark media events associated with Oprah Winfrey. But despite all the ambition being discussed, the reality check remains impossible to ignore, because Prince Harry already set an extremely high commercial benchmark with his memoir, which reportedly sold around 1.4 million copies on its first day of release, a number widely described as unprecedented in publishing history. That book wasn't just a release. It was a global media shockwave, combining personal reflection, institutional criticism, and intimate storytelling in a way that immediately dominated international headlines and triggered widespread debate across political and cultural spaces. A major part of that impact also came from the fact that it was shaped with professional editorial assistance, including a ghostwriter, which helped structure the narrative into a polished, highly readable global bestseller that still sparked controversy in multiple regions. Now, attention shifts toward the possibility of a different kind of book project involving Meghan Markle, which is being discussed in media commentary as potentially more personal, more direct, and more author-driven compared to previous royal-related publications. Supporters describe that approach as authentic storytelling, a way for her voice to be fully expressed without external filtering, while critics argue it opens the door to even more debate over interpretation, framing, and how real-life events are presented to the public. This debate has reignited older discussions about memoir accuracy and how memory interacts with documented reality, especially in high-profile public lives, where nearly every moment is captured, archived, and replayed across media platforms. Some commentators have revisited earlier passages from Prince Harry's memoir, where descriptions of emotional events were later compared with publicly available photographs that appeared to show different circumstances or timing. One frequently discussed example involves a moment described in his narrative regarding learning about the passing of his great-grandmother while at Eton College, a scene portrayed as deeply personal, isolated, and emotionally overwhelming. However, online discussions pointed to photographs from that same time frame that appeared to show him engaged in a ski trip with family, leading to debate about how memory, timing, and documentation can sometimes diverge in public storytelling. These comparisons are now being used as a reference point in broader discussions about how any future memoir from Meghan might be received, especially if it includes detailed recollections of already heavily documented public events. Another highly discussed topic tied into this narrative involves a widely circulated video clip of Meghan that sparked strong reactions across social platforms, particularly because of its perceived emotional tone and visual framing. The footage showed her appearing relaxed and smiling in a location that some viewers connected to sensitive historical associations due to its proximity to areas linked in public memory with Princess Diana. Supporters of Meghan argue that the reaction to the clip ignored context and intent, emphasizing that short-form media often removes nuance and creates interpretations that differ from the original moment. Critics, however, argue that regardless of intent, visual storytelling in high-profile environments carries weight, especially when locations and emotional tone intersect with widely recognized historical references. This disagreement has now become part of a larger digital-era conversation about perception, editing, framing, and how rapidly narratives form in the absence of full context. While that debate continues online, attention also shifted strongly toward Catherine, Princess of Wales, whose recent appearance in Reggio Emilia, Italy, became one of the most talked-about royal engagements of the period. Reports from the event indicated overwhelming media demand, with approximately 300 Italian journalists applying for accreditation, and a large majority reportedly being turned away due to capacity limitations. The public turnout was described as highly energetic and emotionally charged, with crowds filling squares, chanting her name, and families bringing children forward in hopes of catching a closer glimpse of the royal visit. During the engagement, Catherine, Princess of Wales, was also reported to have interacted directly with local children and even communicated in Italian, which observers highlighted as a sign of preparation, effort, and cultural engagement. Royal correspondents on site used a striking phrase to describe the atmosphere, referring to it as Diana Days, a comparison to the historic public reaction once associated with Princess Diana during her most iconic public appearances. That comparison quickly spread through media commentary as analysts pointed to the level of crowd energy, camera attention, and public enthusiasm as indicators of a strong global royal presence. Some reports even suggested that timing of the visit may have been strategically aligned within broader royal communication planning, although no official confirmation has been provided to support claims of direct coordination with other royal-related public events. What is widely acknowledged, however, is the difference in presentation style being observed across public appearances, with Catherine often described as focused, structured, and mission-oriented during engagements. Observers frequently note that her attention remains directed toward the individuals she is meeting, whether children, community members, or officials, reinforcing a perception of grounded interaction. In contrast, commentary surrounding Meghan's public appearances often focuses heavily on visual framing, camera awareness, and curated presentation, especially in media-heavy or branded content environments. This contrast has now become a central talking point in broader discussions about modern monarchy communication strategies, public perception, and how narratives are shaped in real time across global platforms. At the same time, another wave of controversy has resurfaced involving Sarah Ferguson, based on allegations discussed in a book by author Andrew Lowney, which has sparked both media attention and strong dispute from representatives. The claims include references to a reported past relationship involving American music figure Sean Combs, along with additional controversial statements that have circulated widely in commentary spaces. It is important to emphasize that these remain allegations presented in published material and public discussion, and multiple parties connected to the individuals involved have disputed or denied aspects of the claims. Ferguson's representatives have described the allegations as false, while responses attributed to Combs have been characterized as indirect or non-confirming, in tone based on media summaries. This discussion has also reignited long-standing public scrutiny of Ferguson's past associations, including previously reported interactions with Jeffrey Epstein, which continue to be referenced in broader reputational analysis. These overlapping narratives have intensified public debate about accountability, historical proximity, and how past associations continue to influence present-day perception. Meanwhile, attention also returned to Prince Andrew, who reportedly experienced a recent public confrontation near his residence while walking his dog, an incident that was quickly managed by his security detail. Following that event, discussions resurfaced around his security arrangements, with renewed calls from some quarters for increased or restored public-funded protection, a suggestion that has generated mixed public reaction. Critics argue that existing private security measures are sufficient, while supporters claim his status and circumstances justify enhanced protection, making it another point of tension in ongoing public funding debates. As all of these storylines converge, royal appearances, publishing speculation, resurfacing allegations, and shifting public narratives, the entire landscape continues to evolve in real time, with no sign of slowing down. And as audiences follow every update, every clip, and every new claim, the broader picture being painted is one of a global royal narrative constantly being rewritten by media, perception, and timing. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more updates, because the next development in this unfolding story could break at any moment, and you won't want to miss it.